Today, let's talk about a mathematician who tackled problems that had stumped the entire world. But his secret weapon? It wasn't just logic. It was something else entirely. It was feeling. Okay, so look at this. On the left, you have multivariable analytic functions. I mean, it's a field of math so incredibly abstract, it's basically pure logic. And on the right, the Japanese character for Jōcho, a deep, intuitive emotion. They seem like they're from completely different universes, right? Well, for the mathematician Kiyoshi Oka, these two things weren't just related. They were the very foundation of his genius. So how on earth does that work?
First, before we get into his philosophy, you have to understand that Kiyoshi Oka was no lightweight. He was an absolute titan of mathematics, a man who conquered problems that had defeated the best minds on the planet.
Oka poured his life into a field called multivariable function theory. Now, this area of math was notoriously difficult. Think of it like a mathematical graveyard where brilliant careers went to die. The problems were considered so impossible, so thorny, that most experts had just given up. But Oka, well, he saw a mountain he knew he had to climb.
And climb it, he did. Starting in 1934, he spent decades in a solitary battle against his field's three great problems, and his work was so groundbreaking that he was eventually awarded the Japan Academy Prize and the Order of Culture, which is one of the highest honors in Japan. So let's be crystal clear. This was a man who had an absolute mastery of logic and pure abstract reason. And this is where the story gets really interesting. We've established what he did, the seemingly impossible. But the answer to how he did it is something you would just never, ever expect from a mathematician of his caliber. You see, Oka's secret weapon wasn't some new formula or a clever trick with numbers. His true power, as he claimed, came from a profound philosophy, one that was rooted not in the head, but in the heart. This right here was his core belief. I mean, think about that for a second. For a guy who lived and breathed pure mathematics, that statement is, well, it's kind of shocking. It seems to go against everything we think of when we picture logic and reason. But to really get Okano, we have to understand what he actually meant by emotion. He wasn't talking about everyday feelings, like being happy or sad. He was talking about Jōcho, a very specific Japanese concept. The best way to think of it is as a deep, balanced intuition. It's that sense of harmony you feel when you're deeply connected to nature and to your own true self. It's not illogical. It's a different kind of understanding, one that runs much deeper than logic can go.
And get this wasn't just a theory for him. He said his biggest breakthroughs in math didn't happen when he was hunched over a desk grinding away. No, they came in moments of total relaxation, when he was out in nature, like crossing a lake on a boat or just walking through a forest. He called it the sharp joy of discovery, a sudden flash of insight that only appeared when his logical, everyday mind finally got out of the way.
So how did he explain this strange process? Well, to make sense of it all, Oka came up with a really simple but incredibly powerful model of how our minds work. He called it the two minds. He said that all of us have two minds operating inside us. The first mind is our everyday brain. It's the part that uses logic, reason, all the stuff we learn in school. It's self-centered, always analyzing, always calculating. But Oka believed underneath all that noise is our second mind. And that's our true self. It's a selfless, intuitive core that's connected to that deep feeling of Jōcho. It's where real wisdom comes from. And this whole philosophy didn't just stay in the world of math. It actually made him a pretty sharp critic of the modern world, especially when it came to education. See, Oka looked around and he got really worried. He felt that modern education had become this frantic race to build up the first mind, the logical part, as fast as humanly possible. He thought this rush was incredibly dangerous, that we were forcing kids to become little intellectuals before their emotional core, their second mind, ever had a chance to properly develop. He saw society making some huge mistakes, focusing only on knowledge and logic while cutting off our connection to nature. He actually used to lament that you couldn't see butterflies in the spring or fireflies in the summer anymore. He believed we were forgetting that you have to nurture that Jōcho, that emotional core, for the mind to really grow. For him, true creativity, true genius, could only come from that deep emotional place, not just from memorizing facts.
Which brings us all the way back to that central puzzle. How could a master of logic be such a champion of emotion? Well, the truth is, for Kiyoshi Oka, there was no puzzle. There was no paradox at all.
This quote, this just says it all, doesn't it? He saw math not as some cold, sterile science, but as a creative art form, just like painting or composing music. His mathematical genius didn't exist in spite of his philosophy of feeling, it existed because of it. So here's how it all came together. Okawa would use his deep intuition, his second mind, to catch a glimpse of some profound mathematical truth. That was the sharp joy he talked about. Then, once he had the insight, he would use his powerful first mind, his logic, as a tool to prove it, to formalize it, and to build a road so that other people could see what he had seen. His intuition pointed the way, and his logic built the road. And really, Oka's ideas force us to ask a pretty big question today. In a world that's more and more dominated by big data, by algorithms, by artificial intelligence, what is the real value of human intuition? What role is left for that uniquely human quality of Jōcho, that deep feeling that Kiyoshi Oka believed was the true source of all discovery?